How's it going, everyone? Yes, I know it's weird for me to ask that, since I'm basically talking to myself here, but welcome to episode 38 of the See-Through Podcast, a weekly podcast that creates transparency on disabilities and the champions with them. As always, I am your host, Lance Johnson, and I live, create, and podcast from Brooklyn, New York, with an inherited retinal disease called retinitis pigmentosa, or RP for short. My guest today brings a brand new perspective to the podcast, and that perspective is the father's point of view on raising a child who is visually impaired or blind. My guest today is Johnny Rivera, an actor and artist. He's based in New York City, and he actually grew up in my current neighborhood here in Bushwick, which was a fun fact for me to discover. Johnny is a proud dad to his son Jonathan, or Little Johnny, who was born blind due to optic nerve hypoplasia. And their story is one I can't wait for everyone to learn, because hearing about their father-son relationship was not only inspiring and motivating, but it was also very insightful and educational. To give you a little taste of Johnny's vibe, Johnny has a quote that I truly love, which is, "There's two choices we can make when being in any tough position. We can either let it fuel us or drain us." And in this episode, Johnny brings that mentality and more to the table. Johnny and I talk about his approach to raising his son Jonathan, who is blind due to optic nerve hypoplasia, the obstacles him and his son have overcome, how raising his son has shaped his perception of both the disability community and himself, and also how he personally stays centered and positive as not only a father, but as a man. But before you hear my conversation with Johnny, make sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're streaming this on to be the first to know about future episodes. Also, make sure to follow the See-Through Podcast on social media. The handle is at See-Through-Pod. Well, I've hyped this episode up, so let's hear it. Here's episode 38 with Johnny Rivera. Johnny, what's up, man? Thanks for talking with me today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on.
And I have to start with this. I live in Bushwick, so I know that's where you grew up, right?
Yeah. Bushwick is, I guess you can say, my hometown. I moved to Bushwick from Puerto Rico when I was three years old. So we're talking back in the 80s, early 80s, in 1985 to be exact.
Okay, so, yeah.
Home, yeah. So welcome.
Yeah, it's a little different from my moving from North Carolina, when I'm 27. But, hey, it's something we have in common,
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it's definitely different. And of course, Bushwick now is different than what it was back then. But, it's always about progress and always about moving forward. So welcome to my hood.
Thanks, man.
For sure.
Yeah, I could probably spend an hour just talking with you about how much Bushwick has changed, because I'm always interested in learning about that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Bushwick has changed tremendously from when I first got there, but it's all part of it.
Where are you at now?
So right now I live in Cypress Hills. It's like Brooklyn, Queens borderline.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where I am. It's not far from Bushwick, actually, like 15 minutes from Bushwick.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I may have been there before.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably have.
Yeah, the J line. The J line goes down that way towards like Cypress Hills, like by Franklin K. Lane High School.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm off the JMZ near the Myrtle Broadway.
Okay. Yeah. My dad lives in that area still.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so you moved from Puerto Rico to Brooklyn, and you're still here in Brooklyn, and after all these years you now have a son, and that's kind of, you know, the main reason I brought you on is because your son is visually impaired due to optic nerve hypoplasia.
Right.
And you know what's interesting about that is I've had an episode in the past. It was episode 6, and it was featuring an old coworker of mine named Kate Connor.
Okay.
And she has a daughter, and it's the only episode that I've done that's like from a perspective of a parent, not someone with a disability themselves. And her daughter also had optic nerve hypoplasia. So now I'm kind of completing, now I'm completing the scene now. I get the father's perspective, which is cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I'm pretty sure she had interesting stories and experience with her daughter.
Yeah, and what I think is common amongst you and Kate is that you both seem super caring and into providing the best possible life for your child, and I think that's beautiful to see, and I want to kind of share that with everyone. I kind of want to share the father's perspective because I think it's a perspective that's interesting and unique. That's something different that this podcast hasn't really touched on. So, if you wouldn't mind, could you give the listeners like a quick intro to who you are and your relationship that you have with your son, and then we can move from there.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a 38-year-old dad. My son was born in 2005, so I was 23 when Jonathan was first born. I'm an artist, actor, teacher. I also teach theater and acting, a private coach, and been involved in the arts since Johnny was born. Well, I call him Little Johnny. So since I've been an artist since my son was born. So I always relate my art to my son, and that whole experience is always going hand in hand. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey since the start. Like I mentioned, being 23 years old, being a young dad. Being a dad in itself is scary. Being a dad at that age is scary. But then when you find out that your child is visually impaired, it just throws a whole nother perspective of the journey and the route that you decide to go through. Once the experience is put in front of you. So I guess that's basically what's been the basis of my experience with Jonathan. Just, of course, like I mentioned, my art coming about right around the time that he was born, I don't think it's a coincidence. So I always try to relate both things together, So yeah, I mean, it's been a beautiful, beautiful journey, a scary one, of course. But like you mentioned, creating a loving, caring, positive atmosphere has always been my goal. As a father, but also as a man and as a person before that, just because as a man, as a person translates to the father that I am, as a man, as a person translates to the artist that I am. So I always try to look at things positive and with optimism and care and love. And I think Johnny, now being 15 years old, is the way he is, his attitude is a testament to, I guess, the environment that not only myself have created, but also his mother and those
Okay.
Around him. So it's been a great positive, loving journey.
Okay. Yeah, Little Johnny. I like that, man.
Yeah, Little Johnny. Everyone calls him Little Johnny, even though now I tell him, you try to call him Little Johnny. He's like, Dad, I'm a big boy. I'm not Little Johnny.
15, man.
15, man. He's going to be 16 this September.
Those you don't want to be called little when you're a teenager.
Right. And he lets me know, I'm growing a mustache now, Dad. I have more hair in my legs than you, Dad. Like, he tells me. So, yeah.
Yeah. He's going to be, trying to get the girl action going soon,
Oh, yeah. No, he has plenty of admirers, his age. So, yeah, he's definitely he's the 2.0 version of me.
Nice.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Cool. Yeah, I love that you say you tie your art into being kind of being a father too. I think that's an interesting perspective because you are an actor. You work on various TV shows. You have reoccurring roles, and I think it's super cool. Could you tell everyone about that just really briefly?
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for that. Yeah, I've been, like I mentioned, I started acting in my early 20s, and it wasn't something I always wanted to do. It was right after high school and going away to college that I first started, and I started working with a educational theater company just out of the blue. Just like someone remembered me, they recommended me just because they thought I was naturally, like, I guess, good. And I went in, I met with the person, with the director, and I got hired. And then from there, I just started making relationships and started to take things a little more serious with, like, the business side of it, like headshots and things like that. So yeah, I've been acting now for 15 years. Been on various shows, like you mentioned, just Law and Order, Chicago Fire, the show Power. Done a couple of films, independent films, did some web series, and yeah, and I'm still going at it. So it's been again, it's been a fruitful journey that, again, I just relate to just my son.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, does your son have an interest in acting at all?
Well, he loves hearing me. Whenever, like, I'm watching something and he hears my voice, he always puts on a
Yeah.
smile and laughs. And who's that, Dad? That's you? It's like, yeah, that's me. But I asked him one time if he wanted to be an actor. He says yes. He says, like, you do, and I'm like, yeah. And I explained to him. But he loves taking photos and like just being, like, just chilled. So recently we actually are in talks of signing with a kids agency for print. So he has interest
Nice.
in being a child model and representing the diverse community of what it means to be what's the word? I don't want to say disabled, because I think there's a lot of ability in that group of individuals. But he's going to represent a nice, diverse community. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and I think that's needed. I think, there needs to be more like variety of people in ads, commercials,
Right.
movies, you name it.
Yeah, the inclusion aspect of what it means for me is what's mostly exciting. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So Jonathan, he is 15 now,
Yes.
and with optic nerve hypoplasia, from what I know about it, you kind of notice symptoms of that pretty early on.
Yes.
How old was Jonathan when you started noticing symptoms?
Well, it was around the first. Well, I'll tell you this: when Jonathan was first born, um, I remember being at the hospital and just watching him in, like, the nursery room with all the other kids that were just, like, born around the same time. And I don't think I've ever shared this, but I did notice just different in movement, like his hand gestures and the way he just moved in the little beds. I noticed something. I don't want to say that I knew then something was up, but it was fairly early that I realized that he wasn't really following objects and following movement and following, like, my face and things. But it wasn't until he was about 3 months that they diagnosed him. Only because when we went to see his doctor, they would just say, he's still very young. We can't really tell yet. So they waited a few months, and it was at the 3 month mark that they diagnosed him with optic nerve hypoplasia.
Yeah, and that involves the optic nerve, right? It's just not sending a signal to the brain.
Right, right. The nerves that send the signal from the eye to the brain were premature. They weren't fully developed. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that right there is just, it doesn't let the nerve transfer any objects or things. Yeah.
Yeah, I always find that interesting because his eyes are healthy, right? And like it's just that nerve.
Right.
That's
Right. It's just the nerve. And they did say, in due time, they have been very small cases that the nerve does develop fully.
yeah.
But yeah, so right now it's just about us just experiencing life the way it is, and making sure that he just gets every ounce of love and care, and just doing things like a quote unquote normal 15-year-old.
I think there's a lot of power in just embracing things as they are.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. That's great that you say that, because a lot of times we can go and try to fix things, It's like, let's fix something's wrong. Let's fix this, and I understand, there's enhancements, and I understand that there's levels to getting to different places and different and accomplishing different things. But there also is a lot of power in embracing how you are. And the moment you do that, that's when everything else opens up. And I think Jonathan has taught me that from a very, very early stage in our experience together. Even for myself, like, as people, we can try to like fix ourselves, like, oh, we need to do this, I need to be better. And yes, there are, like I mentioned, there are levels to being a person. And you always want to be better than you were yesterday, whether that's in attitude, whether that's in responsibilities, whether that's in decisions. But I think just embracing your gift is definitely a powerful thing, because with that is how others can feel inspired to embrace themselves and to accept themselves. So that's something I always encourage with my son. And he's never asked any questions about him not being normal or being wrong or anything like that. So he's very in tune with who he is, and he lives life in that realm. And not myself or not anyone will ever tell me that he needs to be fixed.
Yeah, I agree completely. And going back to the inclusion thing, with him potentially getting in like the modeling kind of scene,
Right.
like, again, it's like embracing it and being proud of it and just being comfortable in your own skin. That's like such a great thing for others to see, because then there is nothing there to fix, because it's like,
Right.
you're living your life,
Right.
you're being yourself, and like that's all anybody should try to be,
Right.
or do.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think being yourself is so key, to not just for yourself, but for everyone. I'm someone who, with my son, I always try to showcase, not try, but I showcase our relationship the way that I do, whether it's through social media or whether it's through interactions that I have with people in real time, just to show that they are ways to show love and to show care and to show acceptance and promote just positivity and in the simplest of ways. We can try to go and try to do so many intricate things or have these lavish experiences in order to be happy, in order to be, to feel fulfilled. And it's just the simplest of things. My son just loves being with me, sitting on the couch, listening to music. There's so much love and there's so much power in that, that I think sometimes we can forget. Especially like for myself, I'll speak for myself. Like I can forget those things sometimes, being able to experience different things in my son, just having the visual capacity of, oh, I need this, or, oh, I saw this, let me try to go for that in order to like feel fulfilled. And it's like, nah, it's just the simple things. Because once you enjoy the simple things, that's when the other things just are just like icing on the cake. So yeah, it's just the way that I just try to I guess promote is not the word, but just try to experience our times together. So that's key for me, and that's key for us.
Yeah, enjoying the simple things, that's easier said than done. I definitely agree with you that that's the way it should be. But sometimes, it is hard. Sometimes sometimes you even think you're enjoying the little things, but you got things in the back of your mind that kind of make you not able to focus on like your current day.
Yeah.
That's kind of things that I kind of struggle with, is I'm always thinking ahead.
Yeah, no, for sure. Same. I can relate to you. I relate to that. A lot of times that can be for a number of reasons, whether it's, comparisons to others, or feeling like you should be at a different place than where you are now. It's just, what people feed to you, it's just all these outside things. But at the end of the day, it's just like, what are the things that truly, truly, truly make me happy? And it's just, for me, like, for example, like I would look at my son and see how he would play with a box. Like if he gets a toy, he'll play with the box before he'll play with the toy. It's like little things like that. And when I think back when I was a kid, and it's like, yeah, we enjoyed just the simple things. I enjoyed singing, I enjoyed dancing, I enjoyed jumping, and running fast was like cool. You know, all these little simple things that, you know, that make you happy. And of course, you know, as an adult, you have a bunch of different things that, you know, there's different responsibilities and there's different, you know, again, you want to see yourself in a different level in different places. But simple things it varies, you know. Simple things can mean something for me and it could be different for you, but again, it's just what brings pure joy when everything else is erased. If everything was erased, you know, like what would you do in order to like remain happy and joyful and in good spirits, you know? So for me, I always look at, you know, the things that I did when I was a kid and try to emulate that now as an adult.
Yeah, and I'm sure that carries over. It definitely carries over into your parenting, you know, and then your son picks up on the energy that you're giving off, and then it kind of shapes his personality and how
Right.
his confidence for himself and his ideas about himself. Because, you know, like you seem very supportive and very positive, but you know, in the harsh reality of it is there is some parents out there who maybe have children who are visually impaired, who are, you know, hard on their kids, you know, or don't quite understand them. And, you know, and that must be super tough for those kids. And I guess all I'm trying to say is like your son hit the jackpot, you know?
Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you for that. I mean, I truly am grateful for him being in my life. And I know it was for a reason, you know, and I always look at things that way. And I do understand how with, you know, with in other certain situations where, you know, parents may not be as supportive, you know, and I think that comes with a bunch of outside stuff, you know, like, you know, I've gone through the whole, you know, when I was young, when he was first diagnosed with optic nerve hypoplasia, I've gone with the, okay, is there something wrong with me? You know, what did I do wrong? You know, all these things that people put into into your head, you know, like, or people are going to make fun of us now, you know, I'm the person with this type of kid, you know, and I think a lot of times people can just stay stuck in that, which, you know, it's understandable because the harsh reality is that we do live, you know, I don't want to say we live in a world that's harsh, but we do live in a world where there's not a lot of education and support around how you can include and support, you know, people with different experiences, you know. And because of that, I feel that sometimes people can feel guilty or feel like, you know, upset. And sometimes we don't know how to handle these emotions. So we go toward what's closest to us, you know. There's people that have children that can see very well and still, you know, have a harsh upbringing, you know, and can be that type of parent, you know. So, you know, I don't want to say I can understand, but I can have empathy towards it, especially when someone doesn't know how to relate their emotions and how to express them and how to, you know, look at things differently, you know. But for me, that's why it's my job for me to show that with my son and our experience together, to show that, you know, there isn't anything wrong with you as a parent. You know, there's nothing to feel guilty about. There's nothing wrong with our kids. Our kids have more ability than we think, you know, to experience life the way they do and to still be joyful and to still be happy and to still want to do things. That should be encouraged, you know. So I think my son, what he did is just enhanced what I feel I've had in me throughout my whole life. And now how I in return do that for my other experiences when I do have other kids. You know, he just enhanced my ability as a parent, but also as a person and as a man. So, you know, and that's something that needs to be put out there, you know, especially for men, you know, especially for fathers and for dads, because, you know, there's a lot of responsibilities that come with being a man, you know, that society puts on us. So, you know, so to just show a different side of it and to show that you can still be a man and you can still be a king and still be compassionate and still show empathy and to still show order and to still show love, you know, all those things go hand in hand. But when one out trumps the other, that's when things, you know, can get a little, you know, can go a different way. So again, I think just embracing that things are different is powerful, and I think that's what my son has helped me do.
Definitely. And I agree completely about, you know, the pressure that men feel when it comes to like disabilities and things like that. Like I think about that all the time with my own kind of masculinity as someone with RP, as my vision is progressively getting worse. You know, I think about the future, and I kind of attach masculine characteristic traits to things that aren't even masculine, you know, like driving a car. Like anyone, like my grandma drives a car, and you know, it's not like masculine, but like I do attach that to it, and like, and there's a million other things, you know, but it does play into it, and I agree with you on that. Another thing I like that you just brought up, you kind of mentioned that you kind of went through this process. So whenever Jonathan was born, you had these ideas about, was it something your fault?
Yeah.
You know, what are people going to think?
Yes.
And all these things. And, you know, I think a lot of people could pretend that they don't have those thoughts, even about themselves. Even people with disabilities think about these thoughts themselves. Maybe they don't want to admit that they think these thoughts, but it's a natural part of, I think, being someone with a disability or knowing someone with a disability is you're going to think about things like that. And I think those thoughts change over time. Like you feel like you have wrapped your mind around it now, and you're still wrapping your mind around it, but it seems like you got a really good grasp of it currently. Yeah. Like if you were to compare yourself now versus then, it'd be like night and day, I bet.
Yeah, no, for sure. Again, I was 23 when he was born, you know, so my mindset back then, totally different than what it is now, you know. But I want to say that I think I've held on to just my faith. You know, I've always been very faithful and very hopeful and very optimistic. You know, before Johnny was born, we were in our second, going towards our third trimester, and the doctors performed a test, an exam, to see like the status of the baby and see how things are going in the belly. And there was actually a thought that Johnny would be born in a vegetative state and be born, yes, with like no type of mobility. And I remember being at the hospital at that time. And again, I want to get personal, because I haven't really shared this that much to people, just because, you know, it's not like something I go around talking about. But, you know, at that age, you know, being told that your firstborn is going to be born in a vegetative state, and we had a decision to make whether we wanted to continue with the pregnancy or abort.
Yeah.
They gave us, his mom and I, that option, you know, and at the time I was like, what? Like, you know, of course, initially it was a state of shock, but it took me not even 2 seconds to know what my decision was going to be. Like, I knew that he was going to be fine. You know, of course, there was emotions going for both of us, you know, especially with his mom. But I didn't need more than 2 seconds to decide that we were still going to go along with the pregnancy, because I knew that I had the faith that he was going to be fine. Now, you know, yes, he was born with optic nerve hypoplasia, but Jonathan is still fine. You know, so back then, it just is a true testament to just the ability to have the faith that no matter what happens, things will still work out. You know, and if that's the experience that I was going to be as a dad, that I was going to have as a dad, then so be it. You know, and here we are 15 years later, and Jonathan dances more than I do. You know, he moves around and runs and does a lot of things. I have to try to keep up with him, you know. So every time I see him do these things at 15 going on 16, it just reminds me of the time where they gave us that decision to abort. And I would never even think about give that a second thought. You know, because of the optimism and because of the faith that I had that Jonathan was going to be fine. And this was the route that we were going to be on. And it's for a reason.
Well, yeah, thanks for sharing that. And the weight of, you know, there's a lot of responsibility that come with being a dad. Yeah. And those are decisions that you potentially will have to make, you know, and you didn't plan on being faced with that scenario.
Right.
But what I love about it is that you said it took 2 seconds. You knew like you didn't have to think too hard about it. You're like, nope, I'm going to move forward with this and we'll be fine either way.
Right.
I respect that. I think that's a good way to think. And I think that's how people should think about that parenthood like that, you know, unconditional love for their children if they're born with a disability or they're born without a disability. You know, it's like that's what comes with being a parent, you know.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely a responsibility of I always hear, our children are the future, right? So if my son is the future, I got to make sure that I'm promoting the tools that will give him. I want to give him the tools that I would want to see in the future. Like love, like more care, like more compassion, like more empathy. All these different things that make us better as people. Yeah, we want to enhance technology. Yeah, we want to go to Mars and the moon, and yeah, there's different things that we want to enhance. But how do we enhance our capabilities of our emotions as people? How do we enhance humanity? How do we enhance the life experience? And I think the more we can be empathetic and compassionate towards others, the more of an accepting world we'll live in. Where there will be more things to more inclusion, more diversity, and more things available for people that can feel left out in this society that we live in right now. So again, being a promoter of love and compassion is again something that I always try to show. Whether it's on social media, whether I'm kicking it with some friends or with people who I just met. Like it's important to express that in order to create a domino effect of positive energy.
Yeah, I love that domino effect of positive energy. Yeah. I might steal that from you.
Yeah, do it. Just give me.
Yeah, and you definitely do showcase that on your Instagram. Yeah. And for those listening, if you want to check out Johnny's Instagram, it's at Johnny Rivera NYC. It's JohnnyRivera NYC, and there's tons of photos with him and the not so little Johnny anymore. Yeah. The pictures that you have with your son just showcase like everything you're talking about. You can see it in the photos, so definitely check out his Instagram.
Thank you.
And what I find interesting about what you just said is you talked about, you showcase it on Instagram, you showcase it with hanging with friends, you showcase it with people you just met, and going back a little bit, you talked about how your thoughts kind of have changed from when Jonathan was born to modern day. How has your kind of domino effect? How have you seen the people around you change? Their perceptions and their ideas around visual impairments and disabilities.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'm very aware of people's energies and people's perspectives whenever I'm around anyone. Not only as a as a person, but as an artist, as an actor, it's my job to look at a script and understand what characters are saying, what are their emotions, like what are their motives, So I think I do that in everyday life as well, and I can see the shift of someone who may want to feel sorry to someone who now wants to embrace it and be like, holy crap, I love this. I want to be more like this, only because there's nothing to feel sorry about. If you speak to anyone, and I'm pretty sure that has any type of disability, the last thing they want you to do is feel sorry for them. People do different things. There's a bunch of different things that individuals can do that have impairments or disabilities, that the last thing they want is to feel sorry, because they, as a person that has the ability to do anything I that's in my ability to do, I want to be independent. I want to feel like I can control things, So imagine someone who already has some sort of disability that doesn't allow them to do something. It's like, no, I already have this. I don't need something else on top of it, So I definitely do see the energy shifts that's created whenever we're together, and it's and every time I see it, it's like good. I want that, like, again, I grew up in Bushwick, and I still go in my neighborhood, and we still have, things have changed in our hoods. But there's still, you go through Bedford Stuyvesant, and there's still rough blocks that you go through and you walk through, and there's still, you know, the people from the neighborhood, and there could be guys like, for example, guys on the corner just hanging out, looking like the roughnecks that they are, but they see me and my son walk by, and he has his cane, and we're going, and they'll step aside and they'll like show love. You know, they'll oh, God bless you, or bless you, brother. Like they'll say things. So I see the energy shifts that happens even when we're not interacting physically with someone, or in the same vicinity. Even just us walking through certain energies, it shifts. You know, and that for me is that speaks volumes for me, especially being from my neighborhood, and you know, and seeing the stereotypes that people can have towards certain individuals, and seeing how that can shift in a second when they see someone like my son, but also when they see a strong father like me walking hand in hand with him, like we're taking over the world. You know, there's power in that, you know, and I think the more we can embrace that for the people in our lives that have disabilities, but also for ourselves, the more, like I mentioned, the more domino effect it can create with individuals that we would never even think or imagine would have compassion or empathy. You know, so it's definitely something that's important for me.
Yeah, man, it's like you're planting a seed every time that happens, you know, and like, and then there's that domino effect again that you're talking about. Yeah, you're right. It can shift like that.
Yeah.
You know, it can shift like just like that. And sometimes you'll surprise yourself, you know, with people, how people react. You have an expectation in your mind that, oh, this person's probably going to be like this. And then you meet someone and then they're the opposite. Right. And then sometimes it works against you. Sometimes you think someone's going to be chill and you're going to vibe with them pretty easily. And then you meet them and you're like, actually, it's, you know, so it's just like, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I think there is something to that about just kind of witnessing empathy from others. And sometimes I can be pessimistic. I'll admit it. And sometimes hearing stories like that or witnessing things like that can kind of make me feel hopeful again. Hey, you know, we're good. You know, people are good at naturally good, because sometimes I can have a pessimistic view, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, it's understandable. You know,
good to be reminded sometimes.
All we need is reminders. You know, like there's people that go to the gym every day and sometimes they don't want to, and they get that reminder. You know, so I can totally understand. You know, where you know, pessimistic thoughts can come in. You know, but reminders are always key. You know, reminders are always key, and if I can drop any type of seed anywhere that I go, then that's what I will do. You know, so I can, you know, whether I'm in a room with 100 people, it's not my job to touch 100 people. If I touch one person, that's perfect. You know, if one person gets something valuable from what I express, you know, that same thing with teaching. You know, I teach all over New York City, you know, and I go into the roughest of schools in the city, you know, and there's times where I may not reach the 200 kids that are in the auditorium, and that's okay. But if I reach that one, then that's perfect, because that one can now create their own effect within their journey, you know? So again, there's a lot of power in embracing ourselves. You know, there's a lot of power in really owning who we are, you know? And I think the more we can do that, the more the outside world can see and can change their perspectives. But it starts with the individual. It starts with myself. You know, I heard, you know, and if you want to lead by experience. You know, if you want to change, you got to change by experience. You got to show people, you know, and the moment we show people, that's when change can happen, you know, because they see the change within yourself. They see the embracing and they see the empowerment that you have as a person. And that just creates, again, that domino effect, you know, and again, that's important for me. You know, it's important for me as a father, but also as a man, you know, to express that and to show that every step that I take, especially when I'm with my son.
Yeah, I agree, man. And that's beautifully said. And I agree completely specifically about the kind of show it versus say it, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, lead by example. Your actions, you know, classic sayings like actions speak louder than words, you know, like, but hey, it's like, there's a reason why it's a classic, you know?
Right.
So talking about schooling, you said you go around New York and you're a teacher.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on Jonathan's schooling and kind of what his school experience has been like. Because does he go to a specific school? And I know he has specific technology he uses. Can you kind of share a little bit about that for people who may have no clue about that whole different type of schooling?
Yeah, for sure. So Jonathan now he's in a high school in the Bronx. He's in a specific program within the high school because it is a public school. But there is a specific program that he's in that caters towards children with special needs or with other abilities, and that was a decision that we decided to make 3 years ago, because Jonathan was at a school for the visually impaired for all of his academic life, but we realized that we wanted Jonathan to just get different skills whenever it comes to him just being a person. And we felt that, yes, the school that he was at was catering more towards his visual impairment, but there was other things that were lacking when it comes to the social aspect of Jonathan as a person. So I think since he's been in the public school setting, it could be scary because it's public school. There's a lot of kids, and there's different levels of kids within the school. But in the specific program that he's in, it caters to his needs very well. And there's been a vast improvement on his social abilities as a 15-year-old, now 15, that's been a decision that we made that we're very happy with, because now he not only is very great at Braille and reading Braille and doing all the different things that he does in his program, he's also more social, and he has this social personality, and he loves talking and just being himself, and I think that was important for us to have, and not just have the seclusion of just being around or being in a program that just caters towards the visual impaired. It's like, yes, he can have his program, and he can still be in a setting where it can now transfer. He can transfer his social his social ability with others, and then create his own web and his own domino effect within his school with kids that probably never experienced someone like him. So it's something that I'm proud of. And he continues to grow in it. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting.
Yeah.
And I think there is something to, there's technical skills, which are, always important, but also like social skills, and just kind of like, I call them like the human skills, like, and I think if you only focus on the technical, like for example of this podcast, if all I did was focus on like, if we didn't talk about anything emotional or like the psychology of how we think, I don't think it would be an interesting podcast. If I only talked to you about the tools Jonathan used,
Right.
So that's kind of what I like to do on this podcast. I like to talk about both, but I think the social element of just talking about it is just, I think, what people enjoy,
right,
and learn from the most. And it's hard. You can't really teach that,
Right. You can only experience it.
Yeah.
You got to experience the social aspect of what it means to be human. You got to express those things. Like, of course, Jonathan has music classes, and he loves music, and he plays the bongos, and he loves singing, and he loves having concerts, and he loves, all these different things. So I have to embrace that. He loves talking to people. He loves asking questions. He's very curious, and that's something that I've embraced in him, only because at first, through his first few years of his life, he wasn't really speaking as much. He wasn't really curious and asking questions. Now it's all about, what's your name? What do you do? What do you like to do for fun? Who else is here? All these questions that it's like, all right, cool. Yes, he wants to learn. Like, how many days until Christmas, Dad? Like, okay, I got to ask Siri. So it's like all these different things, that's just, that's embraced now as a 15-year-old, and it's great. It's being social is so important. So that's why it's important for me to experience things and to travel with him and to be around different circles with him.
Definitely, yeah. And I think, just being in the public school setting, he's going to encounter a more of a variety of personalities too.
Yeah.
So he's going to be able to learn, I've talked to this kind of person, I've talked to this kind of person, I've talked to this kind of person. Whereas maybe in his school that focused specifically on, vision loss, maybe he didn't have as much perspectives to kind of just soak in,
Right.
or, so yeah, it's interesting.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. It definitely is, and
Pros and cons, I guess.
yeah, I'm here for all of it, man. I'm here to help him through this journey.
Yeah. Does he like living in New York City? Is it ever challenging for him, like with walking with a cane and things like that?
I think it is challenging, but he's not like that. Like he doesn't pay attention to it. He goes along with what it is that he's just going along with. He's always with someone. When he's traveling. And
Yeah.
he does like the city, but he loves being in nature.
Okay.
We go upstate every once in a while. My family has a house in Pennsylvania, and we're in the woods. He loves that. We go to Puerto Rico. I'm born in Puerto Rico, so in the last I want to say year, we've been to Puerto Rico twice. And
Okay.
he loves
Wow.
being at the beach, and he loves being in nature and being around just different sounds. I think he definitely enjoys more being in an easy environment like nature, but he's a city kid. So
Yeah.
he loves the sounds of the sirens and trying to guess what siren it is, like, oh, that's a fire truck, dad. Oh, that's an ambulance. Oh, that's the cop car. He loves listening to like the motorcycles, like, oh, is that a motorcycle? Is that a car? So it's like all these different things. But of course it can get a little overwhelming because, in the city, there's a lot of different sounds and there's things that, I wish he didn't have to hear. But I think there's a good balance, but he definitely enjoys more being around trees and listening to the wind and the birds and waves. And in Puerto Rico, we have these little frogs called coquis.
Okay.
The coquis in Puerto Rico, they come out at night. Like, so once 6:30 p.m. starts rolling around, you hear one coqui, and it's like a specific sound. It's like coqui,
Okay.
coqui, coqui. And then by the time it's like 9, 10 o'clock, 10 p.m., it's dark, and all you hear is the millions of coquis just trying to mate, because that's what the sound is, and he just loves those sounds, and it's, and I know it's because of how sensitive he is to the ear and how different it is to when he's back home in New York. So yeah, it's a great thing.
Yeah, I'm interested in that because I grew up in North Carolina and like this in a small town. So like where I live now is like, vastly different in terms of just definitely auditory stimulation, visual stimulation, and I felt like when I first moved here, I was like overwhelmed. I was like sensory overload almost. But now it's funny. Like the longer I'm here, I'm like yeah, whatever. I'm getting used to it and. It's kind of exciting to get used to it, I'll catch myself sometimes. I'll be in like the city or somewhere really hectic and like a lot's going on, and then I'll kind of notice it, like, hey, this isn't overwhelming me.
Yeah. Good.
So it's a change. It's a change. It's something I got to adapt to, and yeah, like I love sounds of nature too. Like I go upstate every now and then as well, and I always get super excited about like the crickets at nighttime and things like that. It reminds me of home and things like that. So
yeah, same with him. He loves the crickets and he loves listening to those sounds. And I kind of enjoy that too. I didn't grow, growing up in Brooklyn, excuse me, my practically my whole life, I didn't really get a chance to go away as much as I wish I did. Like we just didn't do that as a family. But as I got older, I went away to Purchase College. Then college purchases in up in White Plains, still a little upstate, but not really upstate New York.
Okay.
And there's nature. So I enjoy just being around that and just having that experience. And I think, as time went on, it just transferred to Johnny. So it's like, it's great. I love that because I love getting away from the city. I mean, yes, I grew up in a city, but I would rather be in the woods and the beach or in the sound any day.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this, living in New York has made me tougher. I will say that. And just in terms of like mental toughness
Yeah.
and just being used to seeing, like you said, hearing things that you don't want to hear, or seeing things you don't want to see. I will say like living here has definitely made me more used to kind of grinding, used to kind of, I don't know, I'm just mentally tougher from moving here. It just
Yeah, no,
comes with
that's
the
great,
territory,
man.
I guess.
That's great. I think it's a great thing to have that mental toughness, especially, especially when things are the way they are. It's like, all right, I got to be mentally prepared and mentally tough to take on anything because, at the end, there's no time to like not be, like just going back to like my son, I needed to be mentally prepared and mentally tough to deal with, to deal with life with this experience, and not letting things get to me that would probably have gotten to me before. It's like, all right, cool. Let me have this mental preparation. Let me really, really, I guess, for lack of a better word, attack any type of things that come my way with toughness, but not toughness that's like not controlled toughness, And I think New York, if you're aware enough, it can definitely make you mentally tough, but with order, so
Yeah.
that's the key to be
Yeah.
mentally tough with order. And there's things that you can do to enhance that, like I meditate and I work out and I go running and all those different things to take care of myself, physically, to then take care of myself mentally. It's
Yeah,
very,
they go hand in hand.
for sure. Like meditating for me is very important only because when I look at Johnny, he's, I guess you can say, in a meditative state every time. His eyes are closed every time, so he just needs to be aware and needs to be in the moment every single moment, and that's a reminder for myself during meditation to try to live in that accordance, in the same realm as him. Of course it's different, but I look at that like, all right, cool. If he can do it every single second of the day, I can. So it's just, and that again, that mentally prepares me to take on any challenges.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard that perspective about meditation before.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of dipped my toes into meditating, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that good at it yet, but I'm going to keep trying at it because I think
Yeah.
I need it.
Whatever works.
Yeah.
Start with like, I don't know, like a minute. Like
Yeah.
one thing I do is like, all right, if I'm meditating, if I'm closing my eyes, what am I paying attention to? Am I paying attention to my thoughts that come in, or am I paying attention to what's around me? Like if I hear the AC, or if I hear like crickets, or if I hear birds, I'm like, all right, how many birds do I hear right now? How many birds? Because those are questions that I ask Johnny. Hey, Johnny, do you hear the birds? He goes, yes, I do. How many birds do you hear? And he'll take a second, like 4. It's like, oh, okay. So when I meditate, I'm like, all right, let me see how many birds are here. Like, do I hear? And and that just keeps me like focused on just being in the present moment.
Yeah, that's the way to live, man.
Yeah,
That's the way to be present.
literally.
And yeah, this conversation's kind of like got me excited. I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to get back to my being more intentional with trying to be in the moment. I don't think I've been doing a good job of that recently.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly what you do every single day, but I think doing something like this, man, is very powerful. I think what you're doing right now, what you're doing with your podcast and with your platform is needed, and it's maybe your form of meditation. This could be that for you. And I think again, the more that you share these experiences with others, that's you helping others, as well as helping yourself, which is great, and again, I thank you for even having me on and reaching out to me, because now we're collaborating our meditations. Like I look at my experience as a father with Johnny as meditation as well, because I have to be in the present moment with him every single time.
That makes sense, and you're right. Like, I do get a lot out of this podcast. Like, a lot of people might think that, like, oh, Lance, he's so caring, But like, I get a lot personally out of this too. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
Like the to your point of the domino effect. Every conversation I have with every guest on this podcast, it's like they're planting a seed I'm learning one new perspective every time. And it's like, that's kind of my goal, is to talk to as many people as possible, learn as much as different perspectives as possible, and then kind of help use those perspectives to help form my perspective, and grow personally. So, yeah, that's kind of the goal here. And in a sense, I get kind of like, I say this a lot, but I kind of get like free therapy out of these these like discussions,
Perfect. That's perfect. The way it should be, man. Life is about giving and giving and receive. So
Definitely.
when you give out good, you get back good. Whatever that good is for you. So I think it's definitely happening. It's happening for you. So I'm not surprised that you're having that feeling. Of feeling good whenever you have these sessions. It's great. It's great. And the same for me. Whenever I have an opportunity to speak about my experience as a dad with Johnny, it's the same for me. I get that fulfilling feeling, and it creates just
Yeah.
that it builds your self-worth, because we have a lot to offer, and I think, again, you're doing that with this platform and with your podcast. So I commend you for sure.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and every time I release an episode, I get excited for people to learn about whoever I talk to, because I'm like, oh man, I got so much out of that conversation. I can't wait for other people to get stuff out of it, and I get excited about that. So it's like, yeah, it's definitely a win-win situation.
For sure. For sure.
And speaking of helping people, because I know you're a busy man, I don't want to take up your whole day. I like to end these discussions with, I let my guests give like a shout out to an organization. It could be a nonprofit or charity or just any organization that they want to kind of spotlight, that kind of helps, that you think helps the disability community.
Yeah, for sure. I think if there's one organization that I've been following for a little bit now, especially because it's catered in New York, and it's catered towards a community not only that has people with disabilities, but mainly visually impairment, but also within like the inner city. Like in the hoods, there's an organization called Visions in New York that have a lot of programs, and they have things for children with visually impairments, but also adults. And they provide job opportunities. They provide summer programs, and they're based in New York City. And that's one organization that I've been following for a little bit now, especially being in New York and attacking the inner city and the communities that don't get served. They always come to mind, and they always get highlighted for me. So that I would say that organization, Visions.
Nice.
I'm also starting I'm in the beginning process of starting not an organization, but a foundation with myself as a person, but also as a family. And I'm starting the under the Rivera branding, which is my branding, the Johnny and I Foundation. That's in the beginning stages of things. So, that it's going to be a foundation that I want to collaborate with organizations like Visions and other programs and other organizations throughout the city in New York, mainly in New York, but also if opportunity comes to take it out of the state. It's always encouraged. But yeah, so the Rivera brand, Johnny and I Foundation is something that I'm going to be starting as well. That's going to be putting and highlighting the same issues and the same topics and things that you're talking about. So I wanted to put there as well.
I love it, man. I love it. But yeah, that sounds amazing, dude. I look forward to seeing where that goes. And
for sure, man.
And it's cool to learn about Visions too. I didn't know about Visions, so that's cool to know since it's here in New York.
No, they're pretty cool. Also, another company. They're not like a organization, but they're a brand. They're a clothing brand. I'm not sure if you're familiar with. They do clothing with Veil, and I forget. Let me show you exactly. I need to get her name because she's been doing amazing things.
Is it spelled like
AILLE?
Yeah, you see, I thought it was Allie for the longest time.
Yeah, same. I did as well. But Lexa,
they have really cool clothes. Really cool. I saw during the pandemic they were even making masks and things like that.
Yeah, really cool. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that there's. I don't want to say the designers or maybe the people who manufacture and make clothing are people with visual impairments.
Yeah,
So
that's
I think she has that within
amazing.
her team as well. I could be wrong, but I know Lexa. Her name is. I believe she's the founder of that company. It's amazing just to see
Yeah,
clothing with Braille on them. And that
yeah.
and the inclusion of the people involved in making it happen. It's great. It's so great.
I've chatted with her a little bit on social media, but not
Okay,
like super in depth. Just kind of like we're just kind of casual friends on there.
nice.
But yeah, I should hit them up
Yeah,
because
for sure.
I'm in the process of getting merch ready for this
Nice,
podcast,
nice.
and maybe I could do a collab. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Same. When I get the merch ready, I'll send you out some stuff. I actually in
Yeah,
the stages of getting some things shipped out to me. So we'll
yeah.
do
For
that.
those listening, get ready for some sweet threads. I'm
Yeah,
about to drop some merch here soon, but
awesome.
cool, man. That's great to hear. That's 3 things right there. And if you're listening and you want to learn more about what Johnny just mentioned when it comes to visions, his foundation, you don't have a website or anything for that
Not
quite yet, do
No,
you?
no. We're
Not yet.
literally in the beginning stages of it,
Okay.
but it's moving pretty fast. Yeah, it's
Awesome.
moving pretty fast. It's called the Rivera brand, and the foundation is going to be Johnny and I, with
Nice.
I-Y-E. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Cool. Yeah, I like that. I
yeah.
love that. And then I is the clothing brand.
Yes, I is
And
Lexa's clothing brand that I mentioned.
yeah, I'll have links to all of those. So if you're listening, just click the show description. I'll have a link there. Boom, you can learn everything. Well, I think that does it. I think we covered a ton. Loved everything we talked about. I'm super stoked for this episode. It's a fresh perspective.
Nice.
And you even excited me. You got me like all amped up to meditate and kind of focus on being present and
Yeah.
just kind of, be more wary of the energy maybe I'm putting off sometimes,
Yeah, no, for sure, man. It's key. It's key. And also surrounding yourselves with people that have that same optimistic, positive energy, because a
I
lot of
agree.
times it may not even be us. It's the energy that we're around that we just get attached to, especially if we're ready in our heads about certain things. We have to be very aware of the people that we're around and we're surrounded by and the conversations that we're having. What we're listening to, what we're watching, like all those things play a big part in our energy throughout the day. How we start our days, how we end our days are very important. I'm very like aware of that. Like Johnny wakes up and he loves listening to Chinese flutes. In the morning,
Oh,
we're listening to just jazz, while we're eating breakfast. Before bed, he listens to Indian flutes, or spa. Yeah,
I
so
like his style. I like that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool.
Oh man, it goes like throughout the day. Johnny loves music, so throughout the day, like he'll ask, "Hey, Dad, what time is it?" Or he'll ask his phone or his iPad, and depending on the time, it'll tell him what he wants to listen to. So if it's early in the morning, if it's 8, 9 o'clock, and we're having breakfast, he wants jazz because it's like like we're in a cafe.
Yeah.
Once it hits 12, 1 o'clock, he'll want to listen to some salsa, some Hector Lavoe, some Mark Anthony. As the day
Okay.
goes on, 4, 5, 6 p.m., he want like listen to some Bob Marley, let's little some Bad Bunny. Well, he has Michael Jackson. He has his playlist is so vast, it's so crazy. And yeah, then throughout the day, like once it's nighttime, he'll want to listen to some Bach or Beethoven or Indian flutes, to go to bed to, So he has a good understanding of of a frequency within music and sounds. And it's taught me so much. It's taught me so much to go throughout my day the same way.
And how it connects with the mood and maybe
Yeah,
energy level,
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks, Johnny, man. And you're nearby, so at some point we'll maybe have to connect and link up.
Yeah, for sure.
So
For sure. Grab some coffee or something.
yeah, there you go. Sounds
Yeah.
good to me.
Or a coffee or a drink, whatever it is. I'm down.
Sounds good, man. But yeah, until we meet up, enjoy the rest of your day. And man, it was such a pleasure meeting you.
Same. Thanks so much for having me on, man. I wish you so much success with what you're doing.
Appreciate it, man.
Sure.
All right, take care.
You got it.
And that does it for episode 38, featuring my new friend, Johnny Rivera. It was such a pleasure getting to know Johnny throughout that episode. And as I said during the episode, if you want to learn about Johnny and the organizations he mentioned in the episode, just click the show description. I'll have some helpful links there for you to explore. And don't forget to follow Johnny on Instagram. Again, his handle is at Johnny Rivera NYC. While you're at it, go ahead and follow this podcast. The handle is at See Through Pod. That's SEETHROUGHPOD. Feel free to DM me on social media. I respond to everyone. Or you can email me at theseethroughpodcast@gmail.com. And I think that does it for this episode. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you got something out of this episode, as I hope you get something out of every episode I put out. And if you're new, I put out episodes every Sunday, so keep tuning back in. And until next episode, stay transparent, everyone.